Here we go. Another week has passed. Another week full of insights and tickles and experiences and arisings and insights. And it's always so fruitful. Every week is so fruitful of experiences and learnings. And I'm just always fascinated and grateful for having for being alive, for being alive, and to be able to experience life in its full capacity, in its full expression, and being a scientist and explorer of this beautiful and messy and paradoxical human experience. I mean, it just blows my mind when people say I'm bored. And it's interesting because I had a very beautiful connection last night with someone, and we were just psychoanalyzing each other and sharing and exploring different things. And there was a question, I don't remember the question, but I felt sad feeling into the fact that people get bored, because to me there's not enough time, like, to do everything I want, to experience everything I want, to create everything I want. And it feels sad that someone can feel bored and not know how to pick the cherries of time and enjoy them, and enjoy the beautiful human experience. And I think that comes down to, or this contemplation also relates to, more recently, me being very fascinated and exploring the subject of obsession. Obsession, hunger, passion, the drive, the striving for. And I was just watching a documentary called Psychopath Life Coach, and it was just fascinating to see how you can turn your past, your adverse experience, as he was saying, into assets. And so I think he had a lot of passion and drive and hunger. He created this hunger community, but to me, that's the gold of life, where you can tap into and find and discover something that you can be obsessed about, but in the most beautiful way, like an artist obsessed with painting, or a singer obsessed with singing. And those are very black and white ones, but there's so many interesting, small, peculiar little things that we do, that we have about ourselves, that we don't think that this could be turned into something, but it can. Anything can be turned into something, if there's enough fuel behind it, if there's enough passion, if there's enough hunger, drive, and belief behind it. If you truly believe in yourself and in what you're creating, then it can be something like absolutely ridiculous, and you can turn it into something. So this idea of really exploring and discovering what it is that I'm obsessed about, what it is, something that I love doing, that I could do even if I wouldn't be paid for it. What would I love to be known for? What would I love to be remembered for in this lifetime? And it is still my deep exploration as well as I'm sharing this. But I guess as opposed to looking for an abstract concrete thing, I can tap into, okay, what it is that I want to be passionate and obsessed about, what wants to move through me, what wants to express through me. Yeah, so those are some of my contemplations for the past, I don't know, couple of months, and finding that thing, finding like the secret well of obsession within inside of us, and tapping into that. I think there's so much power in that. So yeah, that has been a big contemplation of mine for the past week. And it's interesting also on that subject, how the subject of or an idea of an upper limit, how when we get to a certain level, there's a self-sabotage that happens. And in this documentary as well, when the main character was talking about his past and how he was self-sabotaging himself over and over and over again, and it's a phenomenon. To me, it's a phenomenon, and it's almost like a self-protective mechanism that kicks in, you know, when things are beginning to get better and improve. It's almost this identity piece that we have about ourselves. We have a certain idea of who we are and how we operate in the world, and as soon as we start changing that context and we begin to do things that contradict to the identity or the idea or the belief that we have about ourselves, unconsciously, like it backfires, because it's like, no, but like I'm not disciplined, I'm not committed, and we begin to do things that sabotage us, essentially. So it's quite empowering for me personally to know that it actually exists. I'm not sure if it's an actual scientific, psychological, what's the word? Concept. But it is spoken about, and it does exist. And I think it's one of the things, like, you can feel into it and you can recognize that within yourself. And yeah, it gives us comfort in knowing, it gives me comfort in knowing that I'm a human and I will inevitably self-sabotage myself. And knowing that, then it becomes, when the self-sabotage happens, it then becomes easier to recognize and be like, oh fuck, I've hit my upper limit, you know. And that's the dance that I'll be dancing my whole life. I'll keep hitting the ceiling, you know, until I'll push through that ceiling, and that ceiling becomes my new floor. And it's almost like I'm seeing the seed that's been planted underground and in the soil, you know. There's different layers, I'm assuming, or in my example there will be a lot of layers, that seed will have to push through, you know. And sometimes it might, you know, bounce up against something and it will struggle. It'll need to gather more courage, more strength, you know, to push through, and it will push through, and there's going to be another ceiling, you know, until it can be out and begin to bloom and blossom. And then once it blooms and blossoms, then the weather conditions start, you know. Then it's hot and it's cold and it's rainy and whatnot. So there's always going to be something happening. So having comfort in that, like, life will inevitably be happening. The circumstances will always test us, you know, challenge us. And it's, who do I need to be to become resilient in those circumstances? And I think weaving back into the obsession and hunger and passion concept, growth, having that growth and having, it's almost like a fertilizer the obsession and hunger is the fertilizer for the soil. So then you get more nutrients and you're like, fuck, let's do this, let's push this through, let's get this done. So yeah, it's kind of within our growth journey, how can we tap into all of these different tools and mechanisms and concepts to really facilitate our growth as a human being. Yeah. So learning, growing, exploring, finding the tools, finding the strategies, finding the techniques to allow for that growth not to stall but to keep going. And just know that every day is a +1. Every day we can do something small that contributes to that growth. And I was on a call with my coach recently, and we were talking about this concept of +1 and 0, and how when we do something, it's always a plus. But when we don't do something, it's not a negative and it's a 0, so we're never losing. And that's one of the other, tools and frameworks that we can use to motivate ourselves. And it's just amazing to gather those tools, gather those insights, gather those blueprints, to help orient ourselves in the world and empower ourselves and support ourselves to keep growing, to keep evolving. So for me, it's how can you be bored? How can you be bored when there's so much to discover? And I guess being bored is when we're not connected to our purpose. We're not connected to our mission. We're not connected to ourselves. We're not connected with the value that we are in the world. Because once we do connect with that, it's just inevitable. Like it's impossible to be bored when we are connected with the value that we are, with the value that our life contributes and provides into this world. And there was a documentary I was watching, The Biggest Little Farm, and it was amazing. But maybe it wasn't that documentary, maybe it was something else that I was watching. Yeah, it was around minimalism, I think. And this question, no, I won't remember, I won't try. But basically, it was something around the knowing. The problem is not something, but the problem is that we don't know where we're going. So I think when we don't know where we're going, when we don't know what we desire, when we don't know what we want to create, and how we want to express ourselves and how we want to contribute in our lives, this is where the boredom creeps in, because it's, there's no direction, so we're just dwelling and flowing in the ethers, kind of like a leaf being blown by the wind, and we don't know where we're going to land and how we're going to land and what's going to be the experience, without realizing that we're actually the wind. We are the creators of our experience, and we can choose the direction, that we want to move towards. And then, yeah, I guess in an ideal world, I don't know, in an ideal world, I would love for everyone to do whatever they love to do. And I was pondering with my friend yesterday, saying, what would it be like if the world would be a place where everyone just does what they love? we don't need to work, and we're all artists, we're all creators, we're all expressing and dancing and moving and painting and drawing and creating, designing and whatnot. And then I guess it's that's me being idealistic, and I don't know how the life would be like. That's the ideal, but then it's like, does the ideal exist, or do we actually need that polarity in life? And maybe we need bored people to know who we don't want to be, to see the reflection of the negative side of the positive that we want to create. So I don't know. Will I still strive for the perfection and ideal? Yes. Because I guess I see inherently in every human being a capacity, a wanting, a willingness, a playfulness to grow, to evolve, to create. And I also see the world of numbness and disconnection and lostness and confusion and distraction and autopilot. And I'm like, if I can contribute to deconditioning some of that and breathing life into people that are not yet in touch with what's possible, then I choose to do that. That's my striving for. That's the obsession that I want to follow. And I think I'll stop there. I just love how I feel like throughout the week a lot is happening, and I have so many insights. And before I record this, I look through my journal and write all my insights. And then I'm like, okay, how do I wrap this into something? And then I start speaking and things start to connect. And I guess whatever is most present and alive resurfaces and expresses itself. But I guess what I am learning through this experience is that no matter what we will mentally want to express or like create a plan of some sort, whatever the experience alive is will manifest itself or will express itself. It's almost like I'm picturing when there are sharing circles or group sharing or something, where your time will come, and in your head, you're structuring, you're organizing, what I'm going to say, how am I going to answer this, and it always fucks you over. I don't know about you, it always fucks me over. And so my strategy is to really let go of the thinking and drop into what's present for me while I listen. What is being, how does my body respond? How does my consciousness, my awareness respond to what is being shared? And allowing that to come through. And most often than not, that is more potent and impactful than trying to think, because the experience is all alive and moving and present, in the present moment. Whatever the mind tries to conjure, it's like it's very robotic, it's not connected, it's like it's a head level thing. And we're spiritual beings, so we're always knowingly and unknowingly are in this like soup of energy that is always moving and flowing and contributing and awakening. And so like, how can we tap more into that field of aliveness, that field of each other, and respond from our heart, from our being, from our core, from our essence. And this is it. I love you. Thank you for being with me. That's my weekly contemplation that came into life as I was speaking, and I hope it tickled something in you. I hope it awakened something in you. I hope it will create a bit of something. It will put a little bit more flavor into your life. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna go. I love you, I appreciate you, and let's have a conversation. If there's something that came up for you, drop me a message, drop me a note, let me know. Relevant, irrelevant, small, big, you know, let's just share. Why not? Why not? Love you, bye.